then right 6, ice maybe.
I've been a filmmaker for a long time now, and I also happen to be a rally driver.
The left 4 plus, into right 4 plus, and left 3 plus through dip.
And in this video, I'm going to share with you absolutely everything I know about capturing really great looking onboard and driving footage using little cameras like this. Let's go. Okay, first up is driver POV footage. This is a super popular one. You see it on social media and on YouTube, and it can look absolutely awesome. It really makes the viewer feel like they're right in the action. And now most of the time I see a lot of filmers that do a lot of this use full-size action cameras like this one, and they do a hat clip and it winds up being like here, because they wanted to get that lens right on their eye line as close as possible. The thing is that I don't think this is all that safe. When I'm talking about driving cars in a spirited manner, I don't think it's a great idea. So here is my setup. And by the way, if this is the style of camera you have, then that's the style of camera you have. Make it work. Let's change hats, shall we? So what I go for is the lightest possible setup and the most amount of visibility, because I like to see where I'm going. So what I use here is, this one is called a Insta360 Go 3S. The cool thing about the Go 3S is that it's basically two parts. There's the actual camera sort of module, and then there's this little base station there that it goes into. And so you can film, you know, using it like this, regular style, action camera style. It's got a flip up screen, all kind of stuff, whatever. The most important part is that you can pull this out and then throw it into this little hat clip that it comes with in the box, which is cool. And it's so small, like it's pretty much right on my eye line, you can see here, but at the same time, I still have full visibility. I can see straight underneath of it. And it's so light, I quite literally don't notice the weight on my hat. And so what I could have done is I could have just taken the regular old hat clip, which is what this is, and clipped it on the front of my hat. But because I'm always going for the widest field of view possible, I'll share why in a second, I decided to take a hat that I just wasn't wearing anymore. And all I did was cut a little slice in the brim right there, much closer to my eyes, so that I can capture even more of the peripheral. The peripheral? So this is my setup for filming non-racing POV. Lightweight, doesn't obstruct my vision, still shoots in 4K, great image quality. And what I really like about this setup in particular, these two connect to each other. It's a lot brighter in person, but I can actually see a preview of what's going on, my angles, all that kind of, my exposure, most importantly, all that kind of stuff is right there. I really love that about this setup. And you can do this with this camera anywhere you want. You could put this out on the outside of the car and still preview it on the inside of the car, which is sick, and control it too. I've got this very dark filter on the front of it, and that's called an ND filter. It's a neutral density filter. And the reason why I do that is because for me, one of the things that shows speed the best when we're talking about any kind of footage is motion blur. What we see with our eyes in real time has motion blur. Do this in front of your face, you will see blur. It's how our brains help to perceive speed and motion. And the way that you get motion blur is a slower shutter speed on your camera. And I won't get into the whole exposure triangle thing with aperture shutter and ISO because that's kind of getting deep into the weeds. But essentially, if you want sick looking motion blur in the daytime from an action camera or any camera, you generally always have to add a neutral density filter to it to bring the light levels down so that you can bring the shutter speed down. And if you have it at 60th of a second, that's gonna give you some nice natural looking motion blur while you're driving. It looks really, really good. They just screw on and off of this little guy, and you can get ND filters for pretty much any action camera out there, and I use them a ton, all the time, constantly. Now, if it's in a motorsport situation, obviously we're not wearing a hat, we're wearing a pretty serious chonky boy helmet, and in which case I still use the hat clip, but I put it onto the visor of the helmet. Okay, exterior shots on the car. There's a whole bunch of different ways and different places to do this. Here are a couple of my favorites. And again, I do a couple things a little bit differently, mostly because of the rally scenario. So most people use suction cups. I like to lean towards really, really strong magnetic mounts. Now these don't work all over the car. It doesn't work on every car. I happen to have a car from 1995 where almost everything is steel. And so this thing works great. Even the hood is steel right now, which sucks for weight because that's an unbelievably heavy hood, but it's pretty nice for mounting cameras. So on the outside of the car, I tend to use the larger action cameras, a little bit more robust, a little bit longer battery life, so I can set it on the car, hit record, and honestly, it'll just sit there and record for probably close to an hour. It has recorded for close to an hour before in a rally scenario. And so for that, this is an Insta360 Ace Pro 2, and the image quality is super, super good. And as you can see, again, I've got an ND filter on this camera. If you have an action camera, you wanna film car stuff, buying ND filters is a pretty solid idea all around, because you're probably gonna use them a lot. And I'm doing my best not to show too much of this car. You can see by this little bit right here that the car has changed quite a bit. My biggest thing with where to position this camera anywhere on the car is I want to make sure that we capture some of the car and a lot of either road or trees flying past. Because again, that's what's going to show you your speed, is the things moving past you. So this is definitely my go-to setup. I also have a couple of hard mounts around the car. I have one down on the bumper. I'll show you that. This is a bumper mount right there. It is super, super, super handy.
And if we're talking about showing speed, nothing does this better than a low-mounted bumper cam, in my opinion. With an unobstructed view of the road whipping past underneath and the trees flying by on the sides, there's not much else out there that can show the viewer just how fast you were going. And bonus points for forced induction cars. With the camera and its microphone this close to the intake, you're getting all those nice turbo noises.
And that leads us into the next thing we're going to talk about, which I think is my all-time favorite view, and that is that centered cockpit cam, as we call it. I've gone through a few iterations of the cockpit cam setup, but this is where we're at right now. Now, there are a couple different ways to set this up. This is obviously the motorsports version where you have a full-on roll cage in your car, but you can have this center camera in many, many different ways. And if you have a sunroof, you can connect it with a suction cup mount coming straight down pretty much into this exact same placement, and it looks just as good. But in our first rally, we had some difficulties keeping the whole thing stable. And we wound up going with, for this next one, and it worked super, super well, we wound up using these motorcycle pole clamp mounts. And despite having like rotating ball joints all over the place, they are unbelievably solid. Like, it's crazy how rough you have to be in order to make that camera shake whatsoever. It's really, really cool. And this is also the camera where we collect our audio from Chris and I when we are in the rally scenario. In a rally car, you have a driver and a co-driver, and we are both wearing helmets that have intercom, so I can hear what Chris is saying and he can hear what I am saying. And this runs power from the car, and we are also bringing in the audio from the Stilo intercom unit, and it just plugs into the camera on the side there.
Okay, into right 6. Yeah, that's left 5 plus half long into right 6 minus over crest.
For the cockpit camera, if you want to show as much speed as you possibly can, you need as wide of a field of view as possible. Because again, a sense of speed in video form, when you only have visual really to go off of, the sense of speed comes from what's flying past you on the sides of the car. So you need to capture that as much as possible. I tend to angle my camera down as much as possible because nobody wants to be staring at the roof the whole time. It also allows the viewer to see my shifter. Yes, my shifter is a wrench, pretty genius solution in a very sketchy moment by the folks at Vex Performance. Cheers, guys. And you'll have to watch the race day video to find out what the heck happened here. Now, if we had a really narrow field of view, it won't feel nearly as fast, because if you're zoomed in all the way down the road, well, all of that stuff, it doesn't look like it's moving nearly as fast as the stuff that's whipping past
Right
you.
3, ice maybe, 50.
Now, I'm a little bit back and forth on whether to use image stabilization for this camera mount or not. I kind of like the stabilized look because it shows you the motion of the car moving around, but I also like the old school non-stabilized look. Obviously, when you are going to film something like this, make sure your windshield is clean. Take that moment, clean it up nicely. Pro tip for those who are in a motorsport scenario and your car has to be street legal most of the time, you need a rear view mirror, but rear view mirrors get right on in the way, especially the cockpit cam footage. So I got this little suction cup mirror so that when we're in between stages, when we have to be on the roads, just suction cup that onto the glass. And then when it's time for stage mode, it comes off. Nice clear view. You'll notice that we have a, well, people call it a flocked dash. I didn't actually flock the dash. I used something else, but I'll show you that in a future video. We had a lot of reflection in our first rally when we were filming, and it was really distracting. In fact, you can kind of see a little bit of that reflection of where the defrost vents are. Like, look how much reflection that is. It was all the way up to like here before. But yeah, clean windshield, bring down the reflections as much as possible, and go drive that car. Oh my gosh, this is really hard to film. See that little guy right there? That is a GPS preview remote. We decided to set it up for our first rally, and I will never not use it. It is so friggin' handy. As you can see, it has a little screen right there, right above my eye line, and I can just really quickly check the footage and the setup that we're getting from that center camera. So you're getting a live feed from it right now, and I can change all the settings. I can do everything to make sure that that one main camera in the center of the car, which is the most important camera because it also captures audio, to make sure that it is running well. that the field of view is what I want it to be. And it also, very importantly, embeds GPS data into your files. It can embed speed and it can embed GPS data, so you can show the track that you're on or the stage. Yeah, it all integrates with this.
I can't believe I didn't remember to say this while I was in the car. This is like maybe the most important tip for like filming inside the car, like that cockpit cam. But if you're just like putting the camera in there, hitting record, which is totally fine, it can look absolutely awesome. But you definitely have to use EV compensation or exposure value compensation, or else in general, what your action camera is looking at is a whole bunch of dark car. Most of what it sees when it's filming inside of a vehicle pointing forward is shadows. And so when it's trying to figure out its exposure, it will expose more so for the inside. And so it brings up the exposure and it winds up blowing out all the highlights on the road ahead. So now you've got a nicely exposed inner cabin of your car, but you can't see where you're driving, which is awful. And I think most people who have recorded in-car footage have experienced that. So once you set your camera up, go have a look at the back of it and go to EV comp, or it usually just says EV, and bring it down to like minus 0.5 or minus 1 EV, because that will tell the camera to expose a little bit lower than it normally would. And then that way you're exposing properly for the road and not the inside of the car. Okay, back to it.
All right, here's an important tip for current or future rally drivers. When you're out doing recce, which is reconnaissance, and that's where you are writing the notes with your co-driver. Now, when you're filming video recce in any vehicle, it'll be tempting to have the same kind of setup as I just showed you in the center of the car, that kind of thing. But I'll caution you on one very important thing. You do not want the really super ultra wide angle field of view for recce, and for a very good reason. I'm going to spin this around. So this is at 1x. Now this is an Ace Pro, so it can just go to 2x and still stay at 4K, which is super handy. And so when we are doing recce, we use 2x all the time. And what this does is it really punches in, and I try and have the camera set up pretty close to where my eye line would be. It's not going to be right next to my face, but about the same height as my eye line as I would be during the race. And we go 2x because we don't need the sense of speed for the recce videos. What we need is a sense of elevation change. And there's a bit of a trade-off when you decide to go ultra wide, because you can't see elevation changes as clearly. But for recce, you need that what's down the road to be somewhat the same way that you would see it with your normal eyes. And so I go 2x, and it allows me to actually see the undulations in the road very, very clearly in our recce footage.
Oh, nope, don't get the car in there.
Well, I hope this helps you capture great footage on the street, on the track, or on the rally stage. If you want to see the day that I actually found and bought this super low budget rally car, you can check it out over there. And if you want to check out my Rally Focus sim rig, right over there. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more. See you on the next one.